A very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you all to session 5 of the FDP on recent trends in the world of photonics. As quoted by the renowned spiritual leader Dalai Lama, happiness is the highest form of health. And I do believe that these two words, that is health and happiness, are highly correlated and we can derive one from another. And we are always in the quest of this long lasting bliss. So, to help us understand with these two important words, we do have with us Dr. Seema Pradeep. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all to her. Um, she's a professor, HOD, Department of PG Studies of Dravya Guna, Sri Sri College of Ayurveda Science and Research, Bangalore. She received her bachelor degree of Ayurveda Medicine and Surgery from A.L.N. Rao Memorial Ayurveda Medical College, Koppa, and she secured 7th rank in the Coimbatore University. She received her MD in Dravya Guna from Government Ayurvedic Medical College from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. She has done her yoga instruction certificate from S. Vyasa, and she is a QCI certified level 2 yoga teacher. She has been practicing Ayurveda since 22 years, and she is a Ayurveda and teacher since 18 years. Uh, she has been a technical expert for ISO 9001 audit for KPMG Intertech PGR for 18 years. She is a resource person to Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Karnataka. She is a NABH Ayush assessor and principal investigator for various research projects sanctioned by the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, ICMR, and National Medicinal Plant Board. She has conducted more than 100 rural health camps. So it's such a pleasure to have you, ma'am, in our session. And I welcome you from the whole team at RNSIT and on behalf of the participants. So now you can take over, ma'am. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinaya, for kind words. Uh, Surrendering myself to the holy feet of this holiness, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Guruji. Uh, Salutations to all my teachers and all you teachers who are responsible for transforming the lives of young generation of our country in the field of technology. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to interact with you August participants, and it's a hope to have a great learning. Expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the entire management and faculty team of RNSIT, I would like to proceed with my presentation. It's wonderful to understand that health and happiness both starts with H. And it may be a coincidence that it's all habit. The question is how to do it. So a lot of, H. So let us get into the further presentation. I would like to begin with a small story for all of you. It's a story of a rich dad who took his son on a trip to village. He wanted to show him how poor someone can be. They spent time on a farm of a poor family. The dad asked his son, "Did you see how poor they are? And what did you learn?" Son said, "We have one dog, they have four. We have pool and they have rivers. We have lanterns at night and they have stars. We buy food, they grow theirs. We have walls to protect us, they have friends. We have encyclopedias, they have Bible. Then they headed, and Sun continued, thanks Dad for showing me how poor we are. See, the moral of this story is it's not about money that make us rich. It's all about the simplicity of having God in our lives. When I say God, there are various dimensions to it. The simple way to accept is understanding oneself, to be with oneself so that we lead a healthy and happy life. So today my presentation would be focusing on these two contents. Health, we will be dealing with physical, mental, social and spiritual health. And then of course about the happiness.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Looks like there is a disturbance in the background, and I mean,
Yeah.
your voice is not very clear.
Are you able to hear me now?
We can hear you, but it looks like there is a disturbance in the background, I think.
Uh, but absolutely I'm in a quiet place.
Some kind of sound. When you're speaking, there is.
Can you just help me to rectify because I'm in a very quiet place.
Oh, okay. We'll check once.
Yeah.
Ma'am, we can try one thing. If you could do the session without the headphones.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, let's just see if it is because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, are you able to hear me now?
This is better, I think. Yeah, it's better now. Yes, yes.
Volume is also fine?
Volume is fine. Yes, yes, ma'am. This is better. Yes.
Okay, so shall I go ahead or you
Yes, you can go ahead, ma'am. Yeah, thank you. You can go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So now, when we look at the definition of health, you all may be surprised to know that the definition of health, what I'm speaking, is about 5,000 years old. I'm sure all of you are aware that definition of health according to the WHO says the healthy status of physical. Very recently, maybe some 4 to 5 decades ago, they have added the mental health, and very recently the spiritual health has been added. But if you look back to the knowledge system of our own country, Ayurveda, long back it is said, Samadosha Samagnascha Samadhatu Malakriyaha Prasannatmendriya Manaha Swastha Ityadi Dhiyate. So, excuse me if I'm using some of the Sanskrit words in between. Definitely, I'll be giving the translations. This is just to say that whatever I'm speaking here is not my own. It's all written, documented, authentic knowledge which has been given to us by the great science Ayurveda. So here, Samadosha, Samagni, and Samadhatu Malakriyaha is all about the physical health. Prasanna Indriya is about the social health. Prasanna Mana is about the mental health. And also Atma talks about the spiritual health. So isn't it very surprising that 5,000 years ago, our seers have given us this knowledge that health doesn't mean to be healthy at the level of physics only, but equally mental, social, and spiritual well being is also there along with the physical health. Yes, practically, when we look into, because the major activity concerned to the human life, we get affected physically and mentally, but also in order to keep these two in a proper shape, the social and the spiritual health is also important, that we'll understand in the further presentation. So, great spiritual leader Sri Sri Ravi Shankar always quotes that purity in heart, clarity in mind, sincerity in action, and contentment is the formula for happiness. And the definition of health goes spirit, physical, mental, social, spiritual well being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So these are his words of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Guruji. And if you see the definition of Ayurveda, it says, Hita hitam sukham dukham ayustasya hita hitam manam cha taccha yatroptam Ayurveda sa uchyate. So Ayurveda, the word, it's not actually related to a health science. It's a science of life. Ayu means the life, and Veda means the science. So Ayurveda, basically a science of life. And see, when we talk about life, any kind of life is not okay. So it needs to be hita, that is good. It needs to be sukha, comfortable. So this is exactly, what is health and happiness. So health and happiness, if one has, that's what is called as life, according to the definition of Ayurveda. Now, what is happiness? See, healthy body and healthy mind, it leads to a happy human being. If there is any physical pain, we are always disturbed. If there is any psychological stress or any emotional imbalance, we are always not okay. We are okay, but our surrounding is not okay, then also we are not happy. So again, going back to the definition of health, what I told, physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. So if we are able to establish ourselves in this state, then obviously person will be happy. What is the importance of health in happiness? Our great science says dharma, artha, kama, moksha. To attain these purusharthas, what is important? To be, we should live, isn't it? To attain anything in life, we should live. And for all these, we should be healthy. So health is a route for attaining anything in life. So disease is something which will come in a way of our journey of life. So in order to avoid that, we have to live a healthy and happy life. So it's like if you are happy, you are healthy, and if you are healthy, you are happy. And this is very important for the journey of life. Now let us come to the physical health. I'm sure with the great guru, our Google, people do surf a lot. They understand what Ayurveda texts talk about physical health. But as a Ayurveda practitioner and a teacher, I would like to give you some of the practical tips in terms of physical health what Ayurveda preaches. So the first and foremost thing what is told is dinacharya. So how many of us know that there is something called as a healthy daily routine? So it all starts right from getting up in the morning. So we know this very famous proverb that early to bed and early to raise, isn't it? But Ayurveda says, Brahmi Murte Uttishte Swastho Rakshartham Ayushaha. That means one has to get up something called as a Brahmi Muhurta. So this is a time which is almost 45 minutes before the sunrise. See, we cannot fix the time because it varies from place to place because the sunrise time varies. So if you get up in this time, it is very good to protect your Ayu. Ayu means life. So why it is so? Because that is when in the environment you will have that aura which will give you all the positive energy which you can imbibe to lead a healthy life. So when to get up, that is also very important. It is also told that who is healthy? You know, for that question, there is an answer in the text that you have to get up when you should get a urge to go to the washroom. So this is very important that as soon as one gets up, one has to clear his bowel habits, and then of course the cleaning procedures will start. The first one is the brushing the teeth. So you will be surprised to know that every single detail of the brush, the material to be used, how should be the bristles, how to brush, how much time we have to take to brush our teeth, and what are all the intervals we need to do that, who are not supposed to brush. Uh, every detail is given in the classics. Just that today we are using different material. It was all a plant-based brushes they were using. Even now, if you go to the Amazon, you get a lot of this herbal toothbrushes which are use and throw. You will have to spend a lot of cost, but people used to live in nature, live in in accordance with the nature in the olden days. So that is how it was easy for them to go and make the brush by themselves. But still, the concepts remains the same. But what is different is about the toothpaste. So Ayurveda never advises anything which is sweet to be used as a toothpaste. The basic concept is it has to strengthen your gums, and also it has to clean up the teeth. So for which anything which is astringent, anything which is bitter would always help, because these two principles will have antimicrobial properties also. Next is about the eye care, because see, it is something which you get connected with the world, isn't it? So seeing is believing, seeing is knowing. So it's very important, and you always have a threat to your eyes uh, to lose the vision. So that is why the anjana, it is called as the application of the collyrium is advised. So in those days, they were using the antimony sulfide, which is from the Savira Desha, that is from Afghanistan region, black shiny stone. By adding various herbs which are meant to protect the vision of the eye, they used to prepare and apply. And yes, today also it is possible, but now the application of the kajal or collyrium just remains as a cosmetic purpose, but it has lot of therapeutic effects too. Next, coming to the further procedures, instilling the nasal drop is one of the daily procedure which Ayurveda advocates. I think in this pandemic time, many of us have again started it, and it is helping too. And in some of the modern hospitals also, those who are taking care of this COVID-19 patients, to protect themselves, they are also going for this procedure. It's basically installation of oil, which is meant for this nasya or the navana procedure every day in the nostrils. So it is told in the classics of Ayurveda that whatever we install through the nose, it is going to nourish the brain. So we know that our most of the sense organs, all the sense organs rather, are situated in the upper part of our body, that is the head. So if we are going to nourish, if all our sensory organs are healthy, then obviously the knowledge what we receive will be very optimal. So this is the reason, not this is one of the reasons rather why this is indicated. There are n number of benefits, like uh, even it is good to prevent aging. So after this procedure, very popular procedure called oil pulling. This is called as Gandusha in Ayurveda, and this also to be done on the daily basis. You can use coconut oil or a simple, edible gingerly oil to do this. Next is about the Dhumapana, that is taking the smoke. Why it is important? Because there is a lot of dust accumulated in our nasal passage, and because of which the breathing will not be proper or will not be balanced in both left and right nostrils. By doing all these procedures, the air pathway will be very patent, and you know that we are surviving because of food and air basically, and if we take care of these two, most of our health illness we can avoid. Then of course the betel leaf chewing, not with all the addicted substances of course, it's only with the intention of preventing the bad breath, to improve the digestion, to keep up the appetite. This particular procedure called tambula is indicated, wherein the regular chewing of betel leaf is advised. So next is Abhyanga. I just would like to bring all your attention here. How many of us are really, applying oil today? It's only when, by chance, if you end up going to any Ayurveda doctor, if you have any joint pain, if the oil is advised as an external application, we are going to do that. But on a daily basis, application of oil is advised. So this is one of the foremost procedure in the daily routine advised to prevent aging. So if we see today, there is a huge difference in the biological and chronological aging. So hope all of you understand what is biological and chronological aging. And definitely we can have a very less biological aging with this procedure. And not only that, see, skin being the largest organ in the body, the nourishment of the skin helps to keep the physical and the mental health. And this is one of the most important procedure to keep that organ healthy. And it is also told that, see, we have all forgotten using hair oil at least. So it's told in the recent texts written in the classics that at least if you are not able to, the oil application to the head and also to the feet is very, very important, at least 2 or 3 times in a week. So next is exercise. Of course, I would like to share that uh, not only mine, but most of the patients who come to us for the weight reduction, they want everything to happen only with the medicine. The diet, of course, few people are ready, but they never understand that exercising on a daily basis is one of the health mantra, which is told even in our Ayurveda also. See, there are a lot of exercise disciplines are available like gym, aerobics, this martial arts, yoga. All these are various disciplines of doing exercise. I would really say that each one of them have their own health benefits and ill effects also. But something which would really help anyone to keep the body and mind and also breath in one line is yoga. It teaches the discipline in life, it teaches the tranquility of mind, and also about the social well-being also. So I would really, after studying all the various branches of whatever I have mentioned, I would say that safely one can do yoga than any other uh, disciplines. But yes, everything has its own benefit. And you will be surprised to know that it's not only for the by doing the exercise, not only that we are able to maintain the BMI in a proper way, but it is something to do with our digestive system also. If we are regular in doing the exercise, of course our digestive system will be up to the mark, and that is how we can, all other systems in the body can be healthy. And how much to do the exercise? This is one question which everyone will ask. It's very individual. I cannot tell you that you go for a walk for 30 minutes. I cannot dictate that yes, you do exercise for 1 hour a day. No, it is wrong. It's very, very individual. It varies according to your age, it varies according to the gender, it varies according to the kind of work you do, and also the kind of a season you are in. So one principle what everyone can follow is that when you start doing the exercise, you should do until you feel little tired, like up to your capacity, half of your capacity, you must do the exercise, wherein the another sign to notice is that there will be a sweating in the forehead. So this is when you have to stop. And mark my words, if you observe that in some season, like in summer, your by nature, your the physical strength is less, so you are able to attain this in a lesser duration of time than when you start doing the exercise in the winter season, because by nature your physical power is more during that. So this is one example which I would like to quote, that see, these are all health tips. We cannot generalize. Yes, of course, the principles are same, but the amount to which you are supposed to indulge with, it's very individual, and that is what makes somebody healthy. Next is about the Udvartana. Udvartana is a uh, kind of a massage which is done with the powder. See, today, lot of body scrubs are used. It is the same principle. There were herbs which used to be used, but today we are using, of course, some herbal powders many people are using, but there are many other artificial scrubs which are used, but it is very important to use because it is one particular regimen which is responsible for making the firmness, giving the firmness to the muscles. So next is about the taking bath. Of course, I will tell only the benefits because this will really take you to a different understanding, because it will improve the digestion. So that is why Ayurveda never advises to take bath soon after taking food. So some have the habit of taking bath soon after the breakfast, which is not good. In a long run, that is going to reduce the appetite. So one has to take bath and then eat. That's the right procedure. It will increase the vitality. It is helpful to increase the life, in the sense, you will be more lively. Then it increases the strength both physically and mentally. It is very good relaxation, and also it is a kind of pleasantness. It brings a pleasantness in the body. So these are the various benefits of taking bath. So these are some of the few important procedures which I would like to highlight. There are so many others also, but this is all with the intention that, see, we don't have a particular daily routine uh, which really brings in the physical health, and we always think, I lead such a healthy life, then why am I getting so much of problem? I always have taken a calcium rich food. I'm very regular with my exercise, but still I'm getting all degenerations in the joints. So the basic oleation is missing, which is possible only by taking the oil bath. So these are some of the uh, concepts which are very, very important for the physical health, which I wanted to share under the daily regimen. So there is something called, beyond daily regimen, the seasonal regimen also. It's not that we eat the similar type of food in every season. It cannot be. We are not able to digest, and that is how we end up in various health issues. See, there is a lot of change in the weather as the season changes, and we are supposed to make the change in our diet and also in the living style whenever the season changes. If we are not doing so, obviously we end up in some of the diseases. So this is a slide which just tells you that in uh, 3 seasons, uh, okay, let me give you this Varsha, Sharat and Hemanta. This is like rainy season to the winter season. I would say that from July 15 to December 15 is one, which we call as a Visarga Kala, wherein, there is a more strength to the body. And it is other way in the summer season, like from December 15th till July 15th, it is the other season wherein, there is a less strength in the body. And of course, it's very deep understanding is required. It is not as simple as I'm telling you, because only in the November and December are the seasons, which is called as a healthy season, And it's very true that we will have very less patients during these two, months. And this Grishma and Varsha, Grishma is a extreme summer, and of course Varsha is the beginning of the rainy season. These two are the seasons wherein the body strength. When I say body strength, it means physical strength, mental strength, and also the uh, immunity of our body will be on the lower side. And of course lot of viral diseases people will encounter during this season. And of course in the further slides I'll just take you see the why all these changes are required, because our physical strength and mental strength changes whenever there is a change in the season. Of course, today the biggest challenge is to identify the season. I, agree with that. That today it is very difficult. We say it is the month of April. We do find rain, so it's not fixed. Though we are trying to tell um, that from July 15th to uh, or June 15th to August 15th may be a rainy season at one particular area, which may not hold good. 15 days to 30 days there will be a change. First of all, we have to identify the proper season and then adopt the seasonal regimen and lifestyle. This is very important. Otherwise, whatever we are doing will not be of any use. So this is just to say that when there is a intense sunlight, we call it as a spring season, the Vasanta Rutu, and the diet should be predominant of all the bitter things. See, we have something called as a gourd vegetables. This bottle gourd, ridge gourd, snake gourd. These all have a bitter principle in them. Basically, all are from the Cucurbitaceae family, wherein they have a natural, antibiotics and anti-inflammatory principles in them, which are really good in this particular season. And if someone indulges more with these vegetables in this season, they will hardly end up with any of the infections. And of course, in this, there are particular lifestyles which are given more importance, like, uh, you know, we give the vehicles for servicing, isn't it? So Ayurveda recommends that even our body has to go for servicing. So this is exactly the season wherein a procedure called Vamana Karma, that is the emesis, we will be inducing the vomiting as a treatment protocol in this season. I'm not talking about any diseased person. This is all recommended for a healthy person. So in this season, if one undergoes this particular procedure called as the emesis, person will never end up in any kapha related diseases like the sinusitis, which is very, very common in Bangalore, the bronchial asthma or status asthmaticus, which can lead to various respiratory infections and illnesses. So all these will be avoided. Yes, now we have to ask ourselves that whether it is possible. Yes, it is possible. There are many people, including all of us at our hospital as consultants. We also undergo these procedures. And yes, let me be very frank. The years in which we didn't undergo these procedures, yes, we do suffer from some illnesses. But if we really stick on to these guidelines, we have seen exactly the health benefits which are recorded in the text, we will be getting it. There is no doubt in that. Next is the Grishma, that is mid-May to the mid-July. I told you this we may have to change according to the place. This is a extreme summer which would really require sweet. See, this is what I tell you, the tricky situation. Vasanta is also a spring, and this Grishma is a continuation of that in a little more severe manner. So in the previous spring, the bitter principle has to be used, and in uh, proper summer, we are supposed to use the sweet, which is just the opposite. How many of us are following this? We hardly take all the tastes. Some of us are very fond of sweet, so we keep that more. Some of us absolutely don't like sweet, and people think that avoiding sweets is a way not to get diabetes. I tell you, it is the most uh, you know the wrong approach we have towards our health, because sweet is a taste which is there with us right from our birth, because the taste of the breast milk is sweet, the milk is sweet, the ghee is sweet, the naturally available honey is sweet, jaggery is sweet. So sweet is the utmost taste which is required for the strength of all our body tissues. It's very wrong that we go away from sweets. But yes, there is a limit. There is a proper way of consuming it, whether it is of natural origin. Yes, white sugar is bad, but the natural source of sweetness are very much required by our body. So every season has been told in detail, like how to identify the season. This is just I'm telling you for those who are very much interested to try on these, the seasonal lifestyle. Um, there are some of the signs and symptoms happening in the environment with respect to the plants and animals, and change in the weather, especially including sun and moon, that there is a clear indication or the clear directions to identify the season. Then they have also told that what changes it brings in our body, and what are the recommended diet, and what is the recommended lifestyle, what we are supposed to do and what we are not supposed to do. This is very, very important. So if we follow this, what is not to be done, then definitely it helps to avoid the diseases. So, for example, it is told that in case of rainy season, we are not supposed to use, cold drinks, drinking cold liquids. This is one of the indication. And most of the times, if we are very good in history taking, while we treat a patient, so all these rheumatoid arthritis and this autoimmune diseases, which have give a very strong history, that they do all these contra-indicated regimens. So Sharad Rutu, the autumn, I don't want to go in detail because it will take a lot of time. So Hemanta and Shishira, which I said the best seasons, that most of us will be healthy because our body strength will be very high in this season. And it's very important to eat well, because our digestive fire also will be very good during these seasons. One thing I would like to make a note here, that see, we have our festivals as Indian tradition, isn't it? So these and the health concepts have a link. So what happened over a period of time is different. But if you go to the original source, like what are the foods we prepare during the festivals, it's very scientific. According to the season, those foods and their ingredients have been designed. See, our ancestors are quite intelligent, that they knew that how to lead a healthy life. Unfortunately, it was not passed on, or due to various reasons, like all of us know that so many invasions which have really washed away our knowledge system, which have destroyed rather our knowledge system. So that is how we are today. Not that we are in a very bad condition, but what I'm trying to focus here is the other countries are taking our knowledge very seriously, and they are able to get all the benefits. But our own people sometimes are not very serious about the knowledge system which we are carrying from past, you know 5,000 years. So after seeing the daily regimen and the seasonal regimen, I would like all of you to understand about the three pillars of life. This is very rare. uh, Hardly few might have googled it, because this is purely ayurveda knowledge. So three pillars of life, as it is told, um, are very important for the physical and mental health. One is food, ahara. The second one is nidra, that is sleep. And next one is little controversial, that is the earlier seers like Charaka, if you have heard of, he has talked about the celibacy. So the recent author to him called Vagbhata has talked about the non-celibacy, because as see, this is a clear indication that whatever the knowledge, the principle remains same and the application differs. This, all of you agree with me that, see, there has been so much advance in the technology. So we have a lot of information access today. But the knowledge system, building up the knowledge system still remains the same. So it's all for the wisdom to attain. So what I'm trying to make a note here is that all these health principles have to be applied according to the need, according to the time and requirement of the time. So we will go through a brief knowledge about this food, what we have to look into, and about the sleep and also the celibacy. This is not something new. We do a lot of research about the food what we eat, isn't it? So there are various theories, and it keeps changing. So one thing what you can observe is we are always attracted to something which is trendy, something which is very much new in the market. But it's not always true. Certain things never change. As I already made a remark that the principles of health never change, only the application do change. So I'm talking only about the principles now, so that you can use your own intelligence to apply that. So there is something called as 8 factors about the food which everyone have to concentrate. This is not my words. Again, Ashta Vidhi Vishesha Ayatana. About Ahara, that is food, there are 8 principles which one should follow. So, which I am going to explain here. eat always hot and fresh food. We can give an excuse that we are very busy, we are not able to prepare the fresh food, but it is totally up to you and your health what you want to do. It is very clear that the nutrition is not going to be there when we preserve the food. So, cutting the vegetables and refrigerating them will spoil the nutrition. When we repeatedly heat the prepared food, will also lead to the loss of nutrition. And when we use the food which is prepared today, the next day, it is called as a stale food as per the text of Ayurveda. And today we have come to something called as a food processing. It's a billion-dollar, industry. And yes, all of us are eating the processed food, ready to eat food. I'm not blaming the technology, but the right, full, and also the judicious usage of these things are very much necessary. I'm not totally asking to avoid all these things, but we should never forget the basic principles of health regarding the food. We have totally changed our food style. Whatever comes in the social media, we go for it. Whatever we are following, the food pattern today are totally opposite. You forget about 2, 3 generations. Whatever our parents were eating, we are not eating. We are totally shifted. I tell you, today we are seeing so much of food allergies, so much of irritable bowel syndrome cases, so much of digestive problems, which are all arising because of our wrong food habits. The first and the foremost principle is that we are supposed to eat what is grown in the place where we live. How many of us are doing that? The place wherein the rice is grown, paddy is grown abundantly, the rice should be the major part of our diet. But we eat oats, we eat maize, and we eat wheat, and we consider rice as our enemy because it makes us put on weight. See, it's not the problem with the food grain, it is the problem with our processing. We are not ready to eat the rice which is non polished, which is not processed, because it's very difficult to prepare rice out of it. The polished rice, it's very easy. Just use the pressure cooker and your rice is ready within 10 to 15 minutes. But the classical way of preparation of rice, which preserves all the nutrition, which has a very high health benefits, which never makes you put on weight and which never leads you to the diabetes, is very difficult. It's not so tasty like the rice we are eating today. And of course, it is very difficult to prepare. Please understand that we are supposed to eat what is grown where we are living. This is the first and the foremost principle. The second one is that the food impression in our body is so strong that the genes which are responsible for making us get used to or get not used to are so strong that we are supposed to eat what our forefathers were eating. because from them we have inherited the genes. But sudden change of the food habits will definitely make us end up in lot of problems, like, as I mentioned, lot of food allergies, lot of digestive system problems like irritable bowel syndrome, and you know even up to the cancers which are related to the intestine and so on. So we have to eat always food fresh, which obviously will be hot. Repeated heating will make it get almost like a stale. This is another thing very important, that ghee or oil should be a part of our diet. Yes, I'm not telling that you have to literally dip, in ghee or oil, whatever the food you prepare, but it is very essential, without which the nutrition is not proper, because most of the nutrients need a fat media for the absorption, and it is very much supplied with our uh, ghee. Ghee is one of the best source in for the fat in your diet, especially the cow's ghee. It is very good to promote the intellectual property. It is something that whatever you other nutrients you take along with cow's ghee, it is going to absorb it properly and supply it to the body. It is going to enhance the digestive capacity. It is going to keep the entire digestive system in a appropriate lubricated way. It will avoid the irritations in the gut, which is possible from various ingredients what we use while preparing the food. So ghee is one of the most important one. Of course, there are a lot of other issues added with it, like how to source a proper cow's ghee, whether it is genuine. All these questions still remain, but the actual properties of cow's ghee, what I have already uh, made a note, is one of the most important aspect of our diet. Eat when hungry. This is very important. Our lunch break is at 1 o'clock, 1 to 1:45 or 2 o'clock. So we are eating our lunch during that time. We go back home after our duty only by 8 o'clock. So 9 p.m. we are eating. I'm leaving to my workplace by 8:30. So by 8, I'm going to eat my breakfast. Is it the way to eat, or is there any specific way, specific time rather? Yes, of course, we have to eat when hungry. Hungry, this is a very looks easy term, but not so. The proper hunger we have to identify. I think we talk a lot about India being, still in the poverty line, and lot of children dying because of hunger and all that. But I think certain portion of our society, we are never making our children feel what is called as hunger. Before they really feel this hunger, we are supplying food, we are filling them. And they, poor children think that that is what is normal hunger. And that is how they grow up and end up in all sorts of digestive disturbances. So please understand, there is a way to identify what is called as hunger. When we start feeling little, discomfort, in the stomach. It's not hunger at all. So you should feel that lightness in the body after we have eaten our previous meal. We should properly feel the lightness. We should have passed urine. We should have done lot of good physical activity, and we should be little thirsty also, and you should feel that emptiness. Only then we are supposed to eat. And really we have to think now how many times or any one of us have experienced this state, and then only we are eating. Most of the time we look at the clock and we eat. We don't follow the seasonal lifestyle which advocates that we are supposed to eat a particular type of diet according to the season. So that is ruled out, and we really don't follow this hunger pattern also. And when we are not following these, we can very well understand why we are getting into so much of digestive problems. Next is eat according to proper quantity. So this is a very challenging you know concept, that how to understand the proper quantity. It is said that when we start eating, we feel comfortable. See, first of all, we should experience the proper hunger. Then we are supposed to eat only after feeling that we are we have experienced the proper hunger. And then once we start eating, that discomfort what we get during the hunger state is fine. We are still able to eat, but at that point we should stop. To be more clear, you have eaten two idlis, you can still eat one, but you should stop after eating two idlis, because the rest of the place in your stomach is for the liquid and also for the circulation of air. So this is how the general principle is given in Ayurveda. I'm sure all of you are quite intelligent to adopt this principle according to your requirement. So eat with concentration. This is something which is very interesting point for me to elaborate when I give health talks to school children. See, today neither the parents have time nor the children are interested to give any. You forget about the concentration to pay attention towards what they are eating. Either they are busy in playing games, or today it is the situation that they just come, start the online classes, and then parents also in a hurry they give the plate and children will be eating looking into the screen. So I think it started almost 2 decades from now. This total shift from eating on the dining table has totally changed to in front of television, and today with indulging with the gadgets, most of the children are eating, not only children, including the adults. So when we eat like this, whatever we eat, at least 50% of what we are eating, we will never get the benefit. So the involvement or the indulgence of your mind with eating process or eating activity is very, very important. See, we party, we laugh, we talk. No, people will be dancing, people will be singing, and we eat, isn't it? It is all not recommended as per the text of Ayurveda. We have to really concentrate and eat. That's the only right way. So eat in a comfortable place. Yes, this is most of the uh, circumstances. It is true that a lot of importance is given to the eating place, a comfortable way of sitting and eating, and it is also one of the requirements for the food. So next is neither too fast nor too slow we have to eat. So this is all the science behind it. The if the digestion of the food needs to be proper, we are supposed to follow this. So the second pillar, that is the sleep. I just would like to say there are 6 types of sleep as explained in Ayurveda. See, when we are tired because of some disease, also we sleep. Because of some stress, also we sleep. And under the influence of some substances, also we sleep. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's some medicines which are meant to induce sleep. So there are various ways, why do we sleep, isn't it? But among all that, each one is a different type of sleep. There had a lot of been researches on the pattern of sleep and its implications to one's health. And the sleep which is natural, what we get during night, is only considered good for our life from the health point of view, as it brings about. See, you can I just would like all of you to concentrate that sleep is responsible for sukha, it is responsible for the dukkha as well. It is responsible for the nourishment, it is responsible for bringing a weakness, it is responsible to give strength to the body. It is responsible for taking away the strength of the body. Either it can give you the vitality or it can lead to infertility. So, not only this physical implications, either sleep can be responsible for the right knowledge. When I say knowledge, it is not only the academic knowledge, but knowledge about self too. So the vice versa also. And this picture depicts that today most of us are very much addicted looking at our mobile phones, maybe for some official work or whatever the reasons. But it is always recommended that at least an hour before going to sleep, we should avoid the screen time, because those impressions are so strong in the mind that our sleep pattern changes. It is going to bring a imbalance in the bodily humors, what we call as Vata Pitta Kapha in Ayurveda, and it will never give the good sleep. So that screen time in today's lifestyle, we really need to take care. So there are a lot of things about sleep which has been told, that day sleep is something which will bring about a lot of health issues. So it has to be avoided. And there are occasions in which this day sleep is recommended, in whom, how much, all those details are also explained. Next is about the brahmacharya and abrahmacharya, what I told. So this is all meant to self-control measures so that one can maintain the physical, mental, and the social health, which is very important towards the attainment of self-knowledge. So whoever wants to, have a self-knowledge to the most, one path is brahmacharya to remain, lead a different life, and abrahmacharya, that is for the reproduction purpose, whatever is important. So this is also another pillar. Just I have quoted this to highlight how important certain aspects which we hardly give any significance in our life. Rather, not that we are not giving significance, we hardly, learn about these significant factors of life. Next is about the natural urges. This is also some unique concept which usually none other health systems do highlight. There are some natural urges like urination, going to washroom, so vomiting, sneezing, belching, yawning, then hunger, thirst, crying, you feel sleepy, and cough. So there are 13 these type of natural urges enlisted in the text of Ayurveda, which we should never suppress. See, it is a habit in most of housewives that they are so busy in attending the duties of their husband and their children that after finishing all, they want to use the washroom. Okay, and with the working group, we are held up in a meeting, we are taking class, or we are in the middle of any practicals, so we will postpone these natural urges. And this is one of the very important reasons for most of the diseases. And it's very clearly stated that by suppressing the urination urge, what diseases we will be ending up. What diseases we will ending up by suppressing the, thirst. These all are very clearly mentioned. At the same time, there are some urges which we should suppress. They are greediness, grief, fear, anger, ego, shamelessness, envy, jealousy, passion, pride, arrogance, anxiety, anguish, inferiority. So these are some of the urges which are supposed to suppress. And these natural urges like urination, which we are not supposed to suppress. So this is one of the very, very important concept wherein we do conduct a lot of survey studies, and we gather data that it is very true. So most of the time we are able to correlate the kind of a disease they end up into, or when we retrieve the data while during the clinical case taking, from the history taking, we do understand that they have this habit. So this is one concept which really needs our attention. So with this, important concepts which I wanted to highlight in a given time about the physical health, we would move on to the social health. See, this pandemic is the best time to understand that I'm okay, you are not okay, I'm also not okay, isn't it? See, I'm okay, you are okay, then both of us are okay. So it's very important that if I'm healthy, it is not sufficient. My surrounding also needs to be healthy. For how can we do that? See, we mainly interact with our surrounding, with our external environment through our sense organs. and also the organs of action. So in the ancient science, it is told as Jnanendriya, which is meant for the sensory organs, and Karmendriya, which are meant for the organs of action. So all our sensory organs, if we are able to indulge in a proper way, like one example I would like to quote. See, if you are using your eyes to read, if you are able to, manage the proper lighting, proper position, proper timing, okay, and the proper things what you see, your eyesight will remain for a longer time. But if you Hina yoga means hardly you do any reading, hardly you are using your eyes, then also it is not okay. What we are doing, most of us doing today, that in a day, say about 10 hours we spend on the screen, which is also, see, some, for some people it is a requirement, but whether it is requirement or not, whether it is our professional requirement or not, most of us are doing that, which is not right. And there are a lot of protective ways also. So that is also not right. I'm not only talking about the screen time. There are certain, it is quoted that watching horror, watching something which are not really pleasing, is also a way that their vision decreases. It not only affects the mind as we think, as well it affects the sensory organ. And similarly, among the organ which is responsible for the action, speech. If you speak good to others, they'll also be good to you. And if we are not so, then whatever we give others, we get back, isn't it? So it is very, very important that we maintain the health of sensory and this organs of action to maintain a proper social health. And only if there is a social health, we will be happy. Next, coming to the mental and spiritual health in Ayurveda, the term is called as Sadvritta. Sad means good, Vritta means, the regimen, what we are supposed to do. As I told you, this is a science. Ayurveda is a science wherein lot of importance is given for the spiritual health. There is a lot of difference between the being religious and being spiritual. So it always advocates one to be spiritual. So knowing about ourselves, having more awareness is very important to have physical and mental health too. There is something called as a concept of rasayana in Ayurveda. I'm sure most of you might have Googled or learned in social media about the herbs like Tinospora cardifolia, that is Amritaballi in Ayurveda, then Ashwagandha, then also this licorice. These are some of the herbs which have this rasayana properties, which are very useful to enhance the status of health. So there is something called as a achara rasayana, which on a daily basis one must indulge in that to have the mental and spiritual health. So Ayurveda codes of conduct to prevent diseases and living stress-free life. Because this is the only way we can be happy. So in one sentence, happiness is the result of good conduct. So unless we have the good conduct, We are not able to have social health, we are not able to have mental health, and spiritual health is very far away concept. So Achara Rasayana is a means through which we can achieve this. So be truthful in what you say and do, because you are at your best when you do this. Be free from anger, because if you understand it, you will overcome it, and definitely you will end up in joy if you know how to control your anger. Avoid excessive thinking, because when you excessively think, it will take out all your. See, I'm not making a comment here not to think, but avoid excessive thinking, because it's not right to know the answers at right at that particular moment. It's good to wait. Indulge in creative activities. So most of you are familiar with something called as the Alzheimer's disease, isn't it? So this is said to be one of the best way to prevent Alzheimer's is to indulge with lot of creative activities right from the younger days. So learning skills, new skills is one of the best way to be with oneself. You feel happy when you are able to, uh, achieve some newer skills. You are able to create something new. So always indulge yourself in creative activities so that you are peaceful and happy from within. Next is being talking with pleasing words. This is very old story, which again I just would like to repeat because this is very apt here. An astrologer told a king that all your sons will die in front of you, and the astrologer was hanged. The another clever astrologer who told the king that you have such a long life that you will completely see the life of all your children was rewarded. So it's very important that we always remain with pleasing words so that we inculcate the positiveness in others and the whole atmosphere becomes very pleasant. Next is about the hygiene. So this I'm not going to explain because all you are learned people here will understand. But definitely, it's not only the physical hygiene which is important, but the mental hygiene also. Next is about the stable thoughts and being courageous. It's good not to talk, just to act. It is better not to say, just to show, and it's better not to promise, rather just prove it. So this is what exactly told in the text of Ayurveda, be courageous. Then charity. This is also told. See, I have just kept the original classical terms just to say that these are all from the authentic references. So we have to have this attitude of giving to others. So whatever we give to others will come back to us. Next is meditation. So meditation is accepting this moment and living every moment totally with depth. Normally, whenever I go and take any session on health, I just give um, one or two short breathing exercises and also one or two small meditation practices, because when we do these practices, there will be an instant change happening in our physique as well as in the mind, which definitely connects with our surroundings, makes it very pleasant, and through the proper interaction with our surroundings, it brings in a kind of self control and a kind of deep sense of happiness. So, meditation is something which is very much linked with all our uh, senses, concentrating on the inner aspect of ours and taking ourselves to a higher level from the state from we are. So this is very important to have the self knowledge. Very unfortunate that today most of our education system doesn't realize. Of course, there had been a lot of shift in this regard that we are concentrating much about the life skills now rather than concentrating only on the academics. See, all of us as teachers, we have to accept that the students who are above average, who are really having a right attitude, will excel better than them who concentrate only on the academics and who are not having the right attitude. So, for to develop the right attitude, all these aspects of life are very, very important. Next is respect. I think nobody else can understand as teachers what respect it means. We always feel very humble. We always feel very grateful to all our teachers, all of those who have made us what we are today. And this feeling of giving respect makes us feel more confident. It makes us uh, more genuine. Then being compassionate. Of course, this is one of the most required quality of both teaching and medical profession. So I'm sure for all of you, you might have experienced that because we come across various, levels of students, some who are better than us, some who are okay when we teach, some of them are not okay. We have to have a lot of compassion and really make them like others. And I need not tell in our profession, especially in the medical profession, this is the utmost quality required for a doctor. So, kindness is a language that the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Compassion is the ultimate expression of your highest self. So, this is all very important that you get a kind of completeness within yourself. So the last one in this Achara Rasayana is what is self-control. It is very apt to mention it at the end because all these things, if it is practiced, then only the self-control can be achieved. So last in this concept, as Gita says, little by little, through patience and repeated effort, the mind will become still in the self. And this is what exactly the term in the text of Ayurveda also is being recorded. Of course, why we have to be spiritual? Because to be healthy, because to be happy. The ultimate aim of any knowledge is to have a healthy and happy life. So this slide, I just wanted to bring in front of all of you because as I told in the previous slides, yoga, yoga, I don't mean only the practice of asanas and pranayamas. Yoga in a real sense. Yoga means the uh, unity of what? Oneself with the Paramatma. See, the union of Atma and Paramatma, like oneself with the nature. That is what is yoga. So, spirituality and yoga are two terms which are very much interconnected because yoga has all the knowledge which is required to bring the self discipline, which is required to bring the social discipline, which is meant to shape your body to attain what you are meant to achieve. And then there are some breathing techniques which will help you keep away from the diseases and which will help you concentrate on your goals. And then there are some techniques which will help you to uh, just like this membrane, we say semi-permeable membrane. It allows only certain things to get in, and it acts as a shield for something which is not required to you. So that knowledge also you have. Then you have total dhyana, that is pratyahara, what I was talking about. Then you have the dhyana, you totally concentrate on yourself and then become samadhi, one with the bigger dimension of life, that is the nature. See, I just would like to say man is a miniature of nature, and however good we are in technology in terms of information access, the more we go away from the nature, the more problems we will be facing. So, with all the usage of utmost technology and the information access, we should always remember our roots and widen our vision for the betterment of human life. Happiness is a deep sense of flourishing, not a mere pleasurable feeling or fleeting emotion, but an optimal state of being. So, your life is your canvas. Create a divine masterpiece out of it. So, I would like to end the session with a quote of our Pujya Guruji: smile, laughter, and meditation are privileges of human life. And definitely, we should always keep up these. So, in a given time, I just tried my level best to do the justice about various components of health. I just try to bring in those concepts which we sometimes know that even they exist, because always we question ourselves, in spite of having this knowledge, then why do I end up in disease? So I just wanted to bring that there are so much of health concepts which you forget about practicing, which even we don't know. And then health is a very far away concept. And today's era, we think that we can get health by going to doctors. Uh, in a way, it is true, but health has to come as a culture. So I just tried honestly to bring to all your notice about certain important aspect of health, and only by having that we can be happy, because these two cannot be separated. If you are healthy, you are happy. If you are happy, you are healthy. And that is what is life, healthy and happy life. So thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. I'll be very, very much interested to answer your queries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Seema, for such a wonderful session. Dear participants, we are now open for questions. Kindly unmute yourselves and you can go ahead with your questions.
Ma'am, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Ma'am, I have a question. You said that applying oil to the feet is very good. I mean, every day it is good to apply oil. Ma'am, could you suggest which kind of oil? I mean,
Simple
coconut.
coconut oil. Simple
Is it?
coconut oil is sufficient.
Oh, ma'am, in the night or morning, ma'am?
Uh,
Morning.
See, if you have time in the morning, you can apply
Mm.
morning, which is best. Otherwise, at least smearing of the oil before you go to bed is also fine. Again, when you ask me this refined oil, it has a very less nutrition. So the normal, this oil which is prepared from Ghana, we get all these different types of, cold pressed oils. That is the
Yes,
best oil we use
ma'am,
therapeutically.
and ma'am, and you said that you should do oil pulling, ma'am. Ma'am, in oil
Yeah,
pulling, once you do it, are you supposed to spit it out or you what, ma'am? I mean,
yeah. See, you take a
some,
teaspoon of oil and
yeah.
start, doing the movement in the mouth so that
Oh,
the oil will reach all the corners of the oral cavity. And once your mouth is filled with saliva, the oil mixed with
okay.
saliva, then it is full, you have to
Mm.
spit it.
Oh,
Then you can just
okay.
cleanse your mouth with the lukewarm water.
Okay. Lukewarm water. Ma'am, and
Yeah,
how do we recognize what kind of a body is yours, ma'am? I mean, you have Vata, Pitta,
yeah.
and but how exactly do we recognize what kind of a body is yours? Because some
Uh,
people will have a com combination. I mean, so some say that it is Kapha and some say it is Vata. I mean, how do we recognize that? I
Yeah,
mean,
see,
what kind?
basically, Ayurveda advocates there are 7 types of body constitutions.
Yes,
There are various types of mental constitutions also.
yes.
There is a standardized questionnaire which is available if you search, but of course you'll have to get the right one. Otherwise, you can just visit, practitioners.
Ma'am,
Very important.
can you repeat? I didn't hear it. Ma'am, what did you visit? Which website, ma'am?
Uh, you can just mail me. I can send you the standardized questionnaire what has been developed by the Ministry of Ayush.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
Ma'am, do you suggest Panchakarma for the healthy life?
Uh, See, I gave an example also how we do the servicing of our vehicles once in a year or twice in a year, depending on the usage. We really have to do the servicing of our body also. So 3 times it is told for a healthy person. Uh, During the springtime, the emesis. During the autumn, the virechana that is causing loose motion, and during the rainy season, it is the enema therapies. But what we are seeing practically, we identify what we do in our hospital rather. We identify the constitution of a person. So, related to the earlier question asked, if one is of a kapha constitution, obviously, we recommend them to undergo emesis once in a year. If somebody is pitta constitution, we would recommend to go for a virechana once in a year. And if somebody is of vata, then of course to go for a enema therapy once in a year. So this is just to, prevent the diseases. And obviously, the persons who undergo will have a lot of, better feeling after the procedure.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.